G.C.E and maybe the new school year, a kind of new look school year that is on 2 shift education amidst COVID-19. So that's what we're going to be talking first here. Let me begin with the educationist on the platform, Mr. Lingondo. If you look at, it has never happened in Cameroon whereby we have 2 shifts. The first shift starts in the morning and ends maybe at midday. The next starts and ends in the evening, given that it is because of the COVID-19. How do you look at the atmosphere?
The paradigm has shifted. We should know that. And we must adjust ourselves into every situation that we see when it comes to the situation, the problems emanating in the country or in the continent.
Yeah.
Now we have 2 school systems or 2 shifts. We have the morning that the students, they will go from morning, and by midday it's over, and then the next shift comes from maybe 2 and closes at 12. You see that it's not really new as such, because our Francophone brothers have been practicing that for many years now. If they are bringing this now, it's as a result of the crisis which we are going through. And Mr. Moderator, I'll bet to tell you that I think it's for the interest of all of us that they should take a 2-shift program during this period of time, so that we don't stress. And you know that, first of all, the students, there's social distancing.
Yeah.
So we must do everything possible to make sure that students, they sit comfortably with their mask while they are studying. And since they cannot accommodate all of the students at one go, the first shift will come, they finish, and then the second shift come, so that they study, and they study very well. So,
do you say their syllabus to be completed?
Of course, the curriculum will be completed, because you see we have the taught curriculum, we have the content curriculum, and we have the written curriculum. Okay. So in the taught curriculum, which of course we want to go along right up to the period where they have to write their exams, which I believe that this time around, that's what they will struggle to do. You have a content curriculum, which is the entire syllabus, and the taught curriculum, which they want to follow the course outline, so that the students or the pupils will be able to finish before they write their exams. Okay. It's very imperative for you to understand, Mr. Moderator, that during this time, they will not be rigmaroling, they will not beat about the bush. They will go straight to the point, because they have a goal. And so the curriculum will be accomplished.
Okay, let me come to you, Mr. Item Armstrong. If you look at it, if you look at the G.C.E that was just released, at least the ordinary level went a bit above the last year percentage. Is the advanced level that went down a bit. Okay, now, if you compare it this time, you see that they will be missing about 3 hours of school, because if the first shift goes and ends by midday, it means they will be losing about 3 hours of school. Do you see the school year to be very effective? Because they were using about 8 hours, but this time they will be losing about 3 hours.
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, I think everything in life is depending all on planning.
Yes.
In as much as you draw your timetable and you relentlessly follow the plan, you effectively succeed. I don't see any reason why we should be scared, because the first thing that many even discouraged was the congested classrooms, where students were first of all making noise, helter-skelter, and some hygienic conditions were not also put in place because of the overcrowding. So I think in the Western world, we must agree that these are some measures that have been put in place even before now to ensure that young youths are safe, so that they can, as they are called, the future leaders of tomorrow, so that they can effectively rule tomorrow. So what I feel is that they should follow their timetable. But the fear that I have is that, there is always that laziness in some people, especially. I've been a teacher, if you mind me to know. I've taught for almost 2 years, and I came to realize that the evening sessions are always very, very tiring, especially once you have taught through the day and you want to come for the evening session. But then it all depends on the rest you also have, because as a teacher, it will not be good for you to go during the day and teach, and then in the evening you are in the bar, and then in the morning you get up very tired and start complaining, because that is what most of them do. Academic field is a field that you need to put in your all. And as per the results of the G.C.E, I think we were expecting that the results will fall, the performance will fall, but unfortunately the students shocked us. That is to show that that is to show that digitalization has come to stay, because most schools adopted a different strategy to make sure that online studies to make sure that they effectively prepare their young ones for a better result. And we have seen the results. The results are good, because when the G.C.E exams were pronounced, it was common to hear in every quarter children jubilating. And I want to also say that I might not have a mastery of the cut-off point, but I'm sure that taking into consideration what we had, it was just natural that the G.C.E board should compromise so as to enable those people.
They made us to understand that there's no.
So as to enable the young Cameroon, because they will not tell you that they have compromised, because this thing, as it is, though I have not marked before, but I have been in a secretariat where I observe most of these things. You have to mark with pity around point, also looking into consideration, COVID-19.
COVID-19. Being a pedagogue, excuse me, let me not cut you short. Being a pedagogue, there are times when you look at the overall results, and you cannot. There's no way you can insist on a particular average that you draw. You just have to discover that when it comes to the situation where we had crises like COVID-19, the Anglophone crisis and things like that, where the children were not really taught as such, you have to moderate the marks. Now, the normal marks may be 50 on 100. They can moderate the marks and bring it to 40 or even 35. And as such, so the result of G.C.E, as I saw, the general and technical result for June 2020 session, O-level result, witnessed an improvement of 62.15% in 2019 to 64.04% this year. So there's a marked progress. And that could explain why you see students were happy and they were joking. You can imagine a crisis situation where digital literacy has come to stay, where students are supposed to use their WhatsApp, and most of them might not even have maybe data. They have to work with their friends and things like that. And the teachers struggling. Some of the children even had to go to the radio. And all these culminated to still coming out with this kind of result. We should applaud the teachers and applaud even some of the students who worked extremely hard. Because if you work hard, you deserve a good result.
Njomo Cyril, but these children, most of them have made it. Do you see a kind of handicap as they progress ahead in their education, given that maybe the lapses behind may affect them in future?
Mr. Moderator, that question is very much thought-wise, given that COVID came with a lasting effect. It might never leave us again. Yes. Some of us immediately knew that it's malaria for us Africans, while those in Europe and America who are not used to malaria, maybe they caught cold for the first time, and so it's still ravaging life that other way. But coming back to the academic environment, we are talking when the Francophone subsystem kickstarts school activities today, and from every ramification, it shows that everything went on well.
Even the phone sector.
History, notably neighborhood like the Kumbo in the Ndonga-Mantu division, northwest region of Cameroon, they started. So we noted with a lot of satisfaction that COVID-19 measures were respected in some schools, notably in cities like Yaoundé, and even in traveling agency where students were flying back to their educational communities. Now, I want to talk to some stakeholders of the education family. Okay. First, the teachers and the government teachers to start with. For those who graduated from higher ENS, that is with bachelor's degree, they have approximately 18 hours to teach per week. And so we expect them to be able to accept to increase that by 20 to 20 hours, meaning that they need to add an extra effort. I'm not asking this from them will mean that they need to cheat on their private classes and evening classes that they do organize. But I'm asking that as a statement to them. I think they should take it with good heart. And to their junior colleagues that have roughly 20 hours, that is those who graduate with A-level, they have averagely 20 hours per week. They can increase that to 22. That is being benevolent. The exam, the result that we are now celebrating, the increment that our learned panelists from the academic family cited here, has most credit from the lay private teachers. I hold that statistic from a recent debate that is ongoing on the CRTV Twitter account that was still questioning on how much could we pay our private teacher, and you want to see the barim of their salary just cut across 100,000, which that is the maximum that we have, that we can gather. And so it is my prayer at the same time to bet on the government and even other. I was talking about the educational family because government have shifted responsibility to local decentralized unit, notably the council. And I want to explain to you why we cannot rely on the council to pay the salary of this lay private teacher, because the resources, even though decentralization is assumed to have been accelerated, the resources that follow suit has not come. And that explains why it's only recently that mayors receive their salary from the month of March. Some receive for 6 months, some receive just for 3, some only for 1 month. And I want to seize this opportunity to say that no, it is still on the table of the government to make sure that they do. They announced sometime in this country that 6 billion was assigned to support the private sector. I think they should go back in the accounts. Yeah, they should go back in the redistribution. They should go back in their drawing board to ask themselves how much money was actually disbursed and whether the standard of living of these teachers actually improved. You better me quote some educational authorities on this platform, because when you send us topic, we go and research and we want to give what our viewers are going to rely on. So Professor Catherine Awunja Sata, who is the Inspector General of Education at the level of MINSEC, actually was part of a debate program this weekend, and she spoke so much about the COVID-19 and some of the challenges that they are facing. It comes out glaring clear that if we only count on the government to ensure the perfect adaptability and success of this new methodology that is being improvised, that is coming in, like this makeshift learning process, then it is not going to succeed, because there are some elements that are indispensable for the success of this new system. First, the digitalization, which needs smartphone and internet. Mm-hmm. That is where the parents have to set in now. And when we ask the parents to set in, for parents that have lost their job, for some have had a slash in salary, and we start asking ourselves, how would the parent respond positively? Even though they love their children, they would love that every child should have a smartphone so that you can attend classes, because most of those evening classes, because if they say starting from 5 to 7 p.m., some will be on digital platforms. And we are asking ourselves, for parents that have 8 children, 10, 5, you need to buy smartphone for all the 5, because simultaneously they can be attending classes at that point in time. And that is where now we start asking ourselves. The government earlier, some 2 weeks ago, announced that UNICEF, one of the funding partners, has given school materials for primary school, practically for nursery 1 and 2. Yeah. But we have not seen it. Maybe for Northwest and Southwest, since school is resuming, but tomorrow we are still to see it.
No, it resumed today.
It resumed today here in Boya? The whole street was clean. Oh, are you supporting this system? No, I want to say that Boya, there was no school in Boya.
There were schools that operated today.
Okay, I will not get into that debate with you, moderator. What I want to say here is that a lot of responsibility has been shifted to the parent as far as the success of this new methodology is concerned. And I start deploring the fact that the parents don't have enough resources. First, the school fees. I'm still sweating here because I had to clear a lot of money from my account to satisfy those of my children, and I'm still not ready to go and look for money to buy smartphones. So this is when I want to call on other development partners, I don't know, NGOs. Yeah. They might step in now and see how they can mitigate some of these challenges that parents are going to face. Because before you know it, evaluation will start, and those students that are not able to catch up with the speed of digitalization might be left behind with failing results.
Okay. Now, by all evidence, the school year has started late. Even with the higher institution, the school year will start late because here the 15th of this month.
15th of October, yes.
Of October, and there are some departments that will only start in November, December,
sure.
Because, yeah. Now, how do you think, because you are of the higher education and the basic, how do you think this can be managed? Because although we are talking of the syllabus, it will be covered, they should give just the right thing. But are these children learning as are they learning to write exam, or they are learning to know? That's
well, Mr. Moderator, I will first of all want to draw your attention again of the fact that from the beginning, I told you that there's a curriculum which must be covered. Yeah. And when we see what is happening in the country, we adjust ourselves and change the paradigm. Because of the situation which is at hand now. Learning will not be really I should say it will not be really effective as it used to be. But we have changed the scenario in such a way that will help the children to get the basics. Because when we talk of the written curriculum, that is what the government has instituted for the pupils and the students to be able to cover.
But don't you think that those who are arguing that in Cameroon we are teaching candidates rather than teaching people who should have the knowledge, because they just prepare students for exams, but for them to have the knowledge of everything? So there are some people who are even calling for the syllabus to be reduced.
Yeah, we are talking about professionalization in education. Okay. Now. Yeah. That is why we are trying to see how we bring the technical aspect where right from the nursery or the pre-nursery, we start orienting children to know exactly their field. Because I will tell you, Mr. Moderator, the problem we are having in our educational system, and I'm an educationist, the problem we are having in our educational system is that children are not oriented from that nursery or basic level to know exactly what they are supposed to do. There was a footage, or there was a video which was sent to my phone where I saw children in Japan. I mean kids, peoples in Japan. They were assembling a laptop, they were even making small phones. Yeah. That is the orientation we are talking about. That is the professionalization we are talking about. It must start from the basic, it must start from the nursery, where the children, my little girl in the house, you give her the phone, she knows exactly how to manipulate it because I'm teaching her that. The mother is teaching her that. So the child is already making progress. That is what we are supposed to teach our children. Professionalization when it comes to education. All this written work that they do, a lot of academic in the head, to have 10 papers, to have 8 papers, it is good, but it's taking us to nowhere. We should change our educational system in order that by the time the children come out with those papers, they will be able to do some basic hands-on activities. And that will change the paradigm completely when it comes to educational setup. That is why in University of Boya, today we are talking about the School of Technology, the School of Agriculture. We are bringing in this other hands-on educational aspect so that by the time you finish, you know exactly what you are supposed to do. Because it is very imperative for us, I'm saying again to parents, let your children, as your children are growing, they are young, they are very smart, smarter than you. We are in a digital age where today children can operate computer, they can operate smartphone, even more than their parents. The teachers also are doing everything possible to ensure that the children look at the children from that level, begin to orient them. We must begin to orient the children at that basic level so that they know exactly what to do. That is why in the primary education today we have skills, attitude, and knowledge. It was not like that. They have changed the curriculum. Skill, the child can know certain skills. They can take the child to the farm, he knows how to plant. They can take the child, they have some other things that they do, like they do some hands-on activities in school. Attitude, that if you eat, you don't just throw things anyhow. You pick them and you clean the place. Because education is holistic. If you go now and teach the child only just something cognitively, then you have missed it all. So we are trying to do everything possible to ensure that the children should have the holistic aspect of education.
Okay, let me come to you before we come and be looking at the private and the public schools, because there's this look ahead as far as this situation is concerned. Okay, let me come to you, Mr. Item Armstrong. Now, these schools, by all evidence, we know that these children must face difficulties. Now, what do we have to call on because what role do the parents vis-a-vis the teachers, that is the home education and the school education, what advice do you have to give, because they have to go together before to make these children here?
The question is very, very sensitive. I must say that for a better future of our children, parents have a vital role to play, because considering the fact that they have decided to make school now in 2 shifts, it will be difficult for teachers even to complete their syllabus without the assistance of parents. So therefore, because I'm saying this because, you know, in as much as they have decided to make schools in 2 shifts, the days, the hours of the day and the hours of the months of the year have not changed. They remain constant. And these are factors that people need to take into consideration to know that nature is fixed, but we humans can alter some things so that they suit our society. So I'm encouraging parents to teach their children at home. Struggle as much as possible when their daughter comes back home. Look at the book. If the teacher did not elaborately teach the student that particular subject, if you have knowledge, go further at least to take your young daughter or son so that they will be enlightened. Let me tell you, you see, this world is all about competition. And our children are the people who inherit the little houses we build. In as much as we don't prepare them properly, they will misuse all whatsoever we are laboring for today. So I think we have to do much in preparing them instead of depending on our time and work here and there whatsoever. Because you work at the end, you build the houses, you buy the cars, and one child who was not educated and poorly brought up comes and sells everything off, you start crying. So I'm calling on the teachers, the teachers and the parents to do their best. As for the teachers, what I want to say is that teachers are always, I hate people who rely so much on salary. Because there are some people in our present society, people feel that in as much as they have pay package, they can just turn around and please take this topic and go and do research, and they go home. And that is all for the day. And they say, this is a high school, it's not. No, we need to prepare these children. If the knowledge was there, they would have stayed in their home and written the G.C.E. It's because they have to be guided on some basic principles. And that is why I'm calling on teachers to make sure that they do their best. One thing that is real is that God pays our labor. Anybody who put in his all, there is a way that God will always pay you. And let me tell you, these children you are training, they might be the one to assist you, because you might end up as a teacher not being able to build a bungalow. But a son that you train will become a president tomorrow, and he will always know that my teacher, Mr. John, my teacher, Mr. Peter, and in so doing, if there is a way that he can help your son, that is how you get your breakthrough.
Somebody said the government should have just made the education very free, so that it could, because if you look at it very well, most schools have started asking parents to pay all of their tuition.
I think.
And so the government would have helped it in a way that the school would have just been free and subsidize the private sector.
Yeah, what
seriously.
is difficult in our society, especially in Cameroon, is the issue of corruption. I think so far, to the best of my knowledge, the government have been hearing statements of the government struggling to subsidize lay private institutions.
Yes, subvention that is going on in the private sector. I must tell you that I have friends, I have colleagues who have schools, private schools, that they give them subvention.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
they
give
give
those
them
subventions.
subvention just too small.
They give those
No, they give them
subventions.
subvention because you cannot say it's not commensurate to what they have, because if you have a lay private school, I will not call any school name, you have a lay private school that is charging one student or one pupil about 150 or 200,000 francs, and then the government gives you subvention of maybe about 2 or 3 million francs to manage your school. Yeah. And the teacher at the end of the day is having at least 100,000 francs or 80,000 francs. Yeah. If the teacher is smart enough, he will even make more money during this time of COVID-19. Because as my brother rightly said here, you as a teacher, you should go, parents should look for home teachers to help the children back at home. So you as a teacher, in order for you to follow up what your children or your kids or your students are doing, why can't you, there's a kind of relationship that teachers and parents are creating now. Why can't you meet the teacher? The parents are willing to pay the money. Not all parents are literate. Not all parents are literate. Those who are not really literate as such, who have the money, they should be ready to spend the money to educate their children.
Yeah, and when you look detailedly, these teachers, especially the lay private school, what is the basic problem with them is that they always want to enrich their private pockets. Yeah. I want to call on the proprietors and the people
educational stakeholders.
Yeah, educational stakeholders.
Maybe the temptation behind their salary.
No,
you know.
I'm not talking about the teachers who are being paid. I'm talking about the people who own these schools.
Yes.
They feel that this is a place for them to be their up license. If you need to run a business, you must make sure that there's capital set aside to finance the business. And by the time teachers who are like the people taking the day-to-day activities of the school, you cannot pay them well, they will tend to other activities for survival, and immediately they tend for other activities. Your school is bound to have poor results. That is why I'm calling on the lay private schools to know that they should stop blindfolding people. There are some of these schools, when the G.C.E comes out like this, they fake results and put them on their placards, and they are saying that they have 100% here and there, only to attract the population. It should stop.
Yes.
I think that we will not be attacking proprietors and parents here.
Okay, since we have started talking on that, let us be looking at the private sector and the public sector, because there is this fight of challenge between the private and the public sector. You know, I watched a debate where the teachers of the public sector claim those of the private sector don't have the knowledge, they are not well built in the curriculum, they have not been trained, but yet we find those of the private sector who help even the government schools.
I honestly said in my first intervention that the so much results we are celebrating, in short, the increment we are celebrating recently with the release of the Cameroon government certificate examination, G.C.E actually is a plus. It's a credit mostly to the private teachers than those of the government. I wanted to make myself very clear when I said that. But now I want to, if you permit, under your authority, of course, I want to talk about the responsibility, because this issue of two shifts is coming to complement those with populated schools. And when we talk of populated schools, it's mostly destined to public, government high schools, most government schools, because they have subsidized school fees. When Mr. Biya in 2000, when he was launching his 2004 campaign and said the school will be free, Cameroonians believed and renewed their mandate to him. And there's none that he was feeding them with slogans. And 20 years after,
education is free.
I know the emissary of Mr. Biya on the platform. All I want to beg from them tonight is that they should give me the chance to talk. So, 20 years down lane, we are still asking ourselves, COVID-19 is giving us an opportunity to implement that slogan that came in some 20 years ago. But this is the message that the government is sending back to us. That no, the private schools should open their doors, they should reduce fees, they should share the burden with the government. Since government have restrained the number of students per class to 50, they should take the rest. And we want to ask them, Mr. Government, when you ask them to take the rest, are those parents ready to pay the school fees they pay as I said? The answer is no. If not, some of us who have gone to Sase also. We also see something and admire the Prime Minister that I followed today. The former Prime Minister, Chief Mafani Musonge, who was happy that he went to Sase. Then we are telling him that some of us are wish to go to Sase, but our parents do not have that money. And these are the same parents we are asking them to go to private school, and they are asking private school to take them. They are not going to take them because those parents cannot afford for the fees. And Mr. Mwambo, I want to regret that teachers or school authorities for the government sector have not been appointed this year, or the appointment have not yet taken place. And we know in previous years, it always takes place ending August, so that at least teachers that are going to classrooms know whether they will be appointed or they should register their children in those schools, or there are so many things. And as we talk, maybe we are still waiting the appointment. What if you have already settled, register your children, an appointment come now, you are moving to Garoua, you are moving to Marwa? Those kind of inconsistency. And that is why we are asking the Minister of Secondary Education, they are not doing their job. They are not doing their job. We will keep blaming COVID-19 till when? This is a default in management. And you will sit here and say that I should be soft with them. No, that they are being paid for that. And I said that was not enough. They are giving them paid.
Don't you think that the government has tried? Let me.
I think I was just saying point two.
Yes, don't you see that the government has tried? Because the government has taken the challenge. Given, if you look at some other countries where they are still very down, they stopped their school 1 year ago, and they are not even thinking of going back to school. But Cameroon have struggled until COVID-19 has reduced, and they are going back to school.
Which country is that? Cameroon has received more than 27 billion as subvention fund for the fight against COVID-19. More than 3/4 of that money was embezzled through Rigmaro project, like the makeshift procurement centers that were built in various stadiums across the littoral and the center. And we are telling them that is what happened when the government broke its ears to critics like us. When the money came, they fold their arms, broke their ears, and covered their paper like secondary school children behave when they are writing tests. And today the repercussions are there, and you are asking me to share that blame for what? For why would I sit here and be sharing their blame? What I wanted to say to land, what I want to say to you cannot cut me on permit me, let me know if I will break my leg.
Yes.
What I wanted to say is that truly the challenges that is ahead of us will mostly affect our children.
Okay.
And I'm calling on the state authorities, including, I want to put at the level of the region, the division, the regional delegates of secondary education, the divisional delegate, the subdivisional delegate. This is their responsibility. For once, they should be able to let out funds. Okay. They should be able to be on the field and stop being bossy, giving reports based on their own feelings. They should be able to move to private, because if truly there was a discussion, there is what we call in this country the public-private partnership for development. If truly this divisional boss or regional boss can move to the lay private school and discuss with them. I know the organization like faith-based school, like the PCC, the Roman Catholic, that if truly they engage in a serious debate, okay, something positive can come out for the benefit of the parents, okay, and not really to just allow them like that to go and try their error,
just 5 minutes,
and which I'm sure nothing will come out of it.
You had something to say.
Yeah, to be honest, one thing we Cameroonians have failed to do is that we have failed to appreciate. I think if you move out, they say traveling is part of education. Yeah. I will urge my learned colleagues to kindly take a step to other countries besides to really know how far Cameroon have gone.
I'm just coming from Gabon, please. I'm just coming from Gabon. Don't be just talking.
Let me be honest to you. Cameroon is doing a lot as far as the educational sector is concerned. Yeah. As for schools, there's no argument that schools are free. the university, the basic education, the secondary education. How much do you pay for school fees? This is something that we Cameroonians will feel that is because we already hate the government. We think that everything we should be laying blames. Do you know how much the government spends to train one? No, do you know how much the government spends to train one university student to run through his or her program? It is not easy. One thing I want to tell you is that you might use all terminologies to describe the government, but it doesn't cancel the fact that the government of Cameroon is on its feet to make sure that our young Cameroonians are well educated. If there's one thing that we should be blaming the Cameroon government, it's not for providing conducive environment for them to have jobs after their studies. As per knowledge, they have the knowledge. Because if you go to Nigeria, I've been to Nigeria, you see JAM and the other level of education. You put a Cameroonian student beside a Nigerian student of the same level, you will see the reason why we should clap for the president of Cameroon and the ministries in charge of secondary education.
Mr. Mod, thank you very much, my learned colleague. Mr. Moderator, I must tell you that education in Cameroon is free. It's free in the sense the public sector is free because let me start back in the higher institution. Where in any university on planet Earth, students are going to pay 50,000 francs for a program. I was talking with Professor Fontitanji the other day when we were having our master's program, and there was a serious debate that they should even increase the fees, the tuition that they are paying as far as university is concerned. I'm talking because I'm a student there, so I know if you pay 50,000 francs for an academic year, and at the end of the day, you have a scholarship that they give you back 50,000 francs. Have you paid any education?
Nothing.
That is zero.
No.
Secondly, if we go back now to the basic educational sector, where students or pupils or kids, they ask them to what they need is just maybe their costumes, their books. The parents buy them. They don't pay any other fees again. There's no place on planet Earth where you find children going to school without paying. I studied English.
My child is asking me 48,000. What are you telling me now? They're asking me school for 48,000.
That's a private sector.
No, it's public sector. My child is asking me 48,000.
I studied in the University of Calabar. I went to University of Calabar, Unicar. And what drove me that I could not finish my program, I was already doing a PhD program there. What drove me I could not finish was the tuition.
But you are as a foreign student.
Expensive.
As a foreign student.
Beside the point,
Nigeria are paying 300,000 a year.
There, I'm telling you the truth. To supervise one PhD student, I'm a PhD student. To supervise one PhD student, the government spend nothing less than more than $1 million francs for the supervisor who is supervising that student. And at the end of the day, the student comes out with a lot of cognitive knowledge, and he goes down and he's teaching, and you discover that we dispense knowledge and very little or nothing.
We are seeing how the country is moving
forward. We realize that the government is doing everything possible to even subvert with the private sector to ensure that the load is not too much on them. But this private sector, people who have their schools, take the money and they use it, they misuse the money, and at the end of the day, the money that they have given them, you see them, they are driving expensive cars. Building mansions. And at the end of the day, they say the government has not helped them. The government is doing a lot as far as educational sector. I'm talking as an educationist. And then finally, I will conclude by saying that you have something to say.
Yes, I want to start back with you this last part of it before we go around. I want us to look at the private and we have started looking at it. Yes. Now, you are in the public and the private. Now, there is this contention between the public and private that the private is more effective and the public, they just come to eat money. And how can you really...
I'll beg to disagree with that. Because the public is not only coming to eat money. If you look at the private sector, the teachers work extremely hard because they are supposed to be paid, which I applaud them for that. Mr. Cyril said
the supervision, even
the supervision. I carried out the supervisory practices and school effectiveness in public primary schools in Fako. That was my research topic. Because of the laxity of supervision, that's why things are happening in the public sector. inspectors and some other people at that level, at that rank, they don't go to the field as they rightly said. I will not support them for that. Yeah. It's not correct. I disagree with that. And that's why I'm carrying out a research on that. Okay. The private sector, you work for what you are paid for. And at the end of the day, they give you your money commensurate to what you are paid for. But I think that they are not still treating the teachers in the private sector very well. Because even after giving them the subvention that they are giving, the government gives the proprietors, they pay their teachers chicken change, which is not correct. A teacher is a lawyer, a teacher is a doctor, a teacher is everything. And at the end of the day, they have relegated teachers, whether it's private or it is basic, or it's public. They have relegated teachers. And I want to say, I'm saying it categorically, whether it's in the public or whether it is in the private, they should change that attitude.
Can I judge
pay the teachers what they
can I judge
because they spend a lot of time inculcating and dispensing knowledge to students, whether being private or public, and yet they are giving them some kind of research allowance in the basic education sector, and they fail to understand that at the basic education sector, if those children are not handled well, you have destroyed them. They cannot do anything as far as the university is concerned.
Okay, when I come back to you, maybe you conclude to tell us how different Tico University can be, because I want us to do a kind of practical.
But that will be doing marketing to Tico University. What I wanted to
Eboya University. Yes. I want us to look at. Okay, say what you.
Yes, I want to really sit here and say that the debate is not much of what the government have done. Yeah. It's to say that, and before I continue, I will permit myself to wish a happy Teachers' Day to all the teachers, including myself, because, and this is where I want to say that we have helped the educational system a lot. When COVID imposed itself, hardly did they used to consider some of us that are into digital marketing and media communication. So the motivation talk we give online, the different articles we write and publish, the different training we do through live streaming, YouTubing, and so many other things help to shape and best integrate the scholars into the professional domain. I have been convened for so many job seminars where I talk to students how they can convert their knowledge into making money. And today we are talking about making money through the internet. I think I should first of all start celebrating myself as being somebody who can help people gather knowledge and transform that into meaningful resources, but equally to the pedagogue, those that cook from the very grassroots up to the produce that we take off now for the job market. Once I've established those basic realities, I want to push forward the discussion to talk the responsibilities that's supposed to be of the government. And when they have failed, they should be able to initiate talk and drop down budgets to help integrate these other stakeholders. Because when we are talking about the educational family, who are we referring to? You have the government that represents the schools, the principal, all the authorities, because even the lay private and the private that we were quoting here are still under the supervision of the government at a certain level. Yeah. That is why you have inspectors that come once in a while and supervise what they are doing. And so if there's anything that is wrong with that following up process, they need to hit the nail or they close the school. I don't know whether we are understanding ourselves. So if all those things are moving forward, are in progress, we have to blame the government. And I will not also be part of those who sit here and tell Cameroonians that truly the educational policy of the New Deal of Mr. Biya is doing well to Cameroon. Okay. Because what he has succeeded to do, he took this country some 38 years ago at an intermediary earning, standard living, where every Cameroonian was at least having a salary that could permit him to send his own children to school. Most of them that are today heading our universities, I laughed when he said that they should increase the fees. Benefited from scholarship. They were paid a ton of from 25, it moved from 50,000 to 25,000, but they were paid scholarship while going to school. I'm bringing all this historical fact to tell you that Mr. Biya have taken us instead 50 years behind. I mean, we are living now a scenario that we live before colonization.
Okay.
Why? Because of embezzlement, because of inertia. And we should be able to denounce those kind of things while we are living. Remember, before we enter this topic, we were talking about the late barrister, and we're looking for his legacy. Some of our legacy will be that we spoke the truth when we're living. And the platform will be there to share. So I want to convince my dear friend that even if the CPDM are sending them, no, at the time they should repent and say the truth so that legacy can keep them.
Okay, let's conclude. I think we'll carry let me call it practical, because I wanted to know what you are experiencing in the University of Boya. We will talk about in next program. Yes, just conclude your last word.
Well,
yes.
I'm not concluding. You gave also one chance.
Okay.
You know, one thing I've realized is that you give some people much of the floor and you give some less. No, let me be honest here. My J panelist is contradicting himself. When he said we are not talking about what the government can do, and at the same time he started blaming the government, Mr. Bia here and there. Look, we are not here to lay blames. We are here to chart the way forward for the educational sector and to see how we can better the educational sector than where it is now.
Okay.
I think so far, so good, we are doing well. What we just need to do is just to add some salt and maggi to ensure that we boost the educational sector to another level. Okay. If you talk of lay private schools, like the doctor to be rightly mentioned, the private schools are people who are they are private individuals who have joined their capital together to inculcate knowledge, to render services in their own way. So now there is a degree to which legislations can regulate their affairs, and in as much as those regulations have not been put in place to shape their affairs, you cannot intrude into their affairs and into their activities. So now it is not the honors of the government. The government can only make proposals to the National Assembly and the people in charge of those making those rules to ensure that they curb the excesses.
The finance law have taken care of
that. Let me speak.
They are under PNC.
When you say
panelists.
Please let me land.
Yeah,
when you people are talking, allow me to land.
Yeah.
When we are talking of blaming the government always, the government have ensured that schools are free.
Yeah.
And once you go to school, what I am afraid of is the Anglophone crisis, especially in the Northwest and the Southwest. Otherwise, teachers have been available. You see, look at the NSET, the ENS, and the ENET, where they train teachers in their number. Some teachers are even saying that they have not been appointed to schools. They are redundant. Why? Because many schools already have teachers flooded, and they look at gaps to see gaps where they can fit in teachers. Okay. They don't see the gap. So now, what we are saying is, these teachers who are running away from those crisis areas should go back. They should go back because no. As it stands, schools have resumed in the whole republic.
Let us.
So they should go back.
Next edition we shall still come back to this.
If there are some places,
Mr. They
have not stopped the crisis, but people are
should go where? Please, gentlemen. Next edition we shall still come back to this, and we shall look at the private. We shall look at the private and the public sector. Dear viewers, we shall go for a break. When we come back, they will continue the program.